All right, well, good afternoon. Here we are working on this thing again. I've had a couple of different thoughts about how I want to finish out the floor. I got a number of things that are keeping me from working on the next step inside of here, which would be how I want to tie the floor into the initial or the primary heat shield or the doghouse. The other thing is, before I start working on a floor paneling system of any kind, I need to work on my seat belt mounts. I bought an adjustable steering column tilt bracket system that I kind of just have hanging there with a bunch of zip ties, trying to figure that out, trying to figure out the depth of my steering wheel. But the other thing I was thinking the other day, in order to establish a floor pan and start working on the console, the shifters, the shift linkage for the transfer case, I need to have a transmission that's got a shift fork or the shift bracket in it so that I can mock up my shifter. I've got one of those Art Car winter shifters. So I've got to have that in there. And I was thinking, well, this transmission is just it's a mock-up. It's just a shell. It doesn't have anything in it. It doesn't have the shifter bracket on it at all. So I was thinking, you know what? Before I start going any further with this, I probably should pull this mock-up transmission out and put my actual transmission back in, which is over here and is actually a fully built transmission. Needs to be rebuilt yet, but it has all the stuff on it. It's got the shifter bracket, lever, it's got the solenoid on the side. Everything is there. And I should probably go ahead and put that in the car so that I can start working toward finishing out the interior, floor panels, shifters, all that stuff, the bracket for the shifter, etc. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm thinking about this now and looking at this. And originally I had designed this, I was thinking what I would do is pull the transmission up and out the side window here. But I haven't really devised a system that makes it easy to do that, especially a fully built transmission that's heavier and awkward, way more heavy than this one. So now I'm thinking maybe I want to try to go out the bottom with it. I was watching one of Shannon Campbell's videos yesterday, and he's got a really cool tray that he adapted to his floor jack that just sort of fits around the transmission pan, and it's pretty slick. I mean, you support the bottom of the transmission with the floor jack. Of course, you got to have the transfer case out, but support it and then just kind of slide it back and then drop the transmission out from the bottom. And I think that's something that I could do. The only thing is I've got a cross tube in here that I will have to make removable, which isn't all that big of a deal. I can do that. And I'm thinking if I want to do that, now's the time to do it. So I'm kind of all over the place in my mind about which direction to go next. There's so many different things that need to be done. And just trying to figure everything out. Trying to figure out the direction I want to go, I guess is what I'm saying. So I think that's what I'm going to do now before I start adding more stuff to here, or more stuff to the interior finishing and the paneling. Now is probably the better time of any to go ahead and pull all this stuff out and get that transmission swapped out and modify what needs to be modified if I need to do that. I think I'm going to probably do that. Just go ahead and make this cross tube removable. I don't know. I'm going to see what I'm gonna see what it's like to try to lift the transmission out. Having to lift the transfer case out through the window with the cherry picker is probably gonna be a task in itself. But we'll see. In the past, what I had done is just taking it out the back, and I may end up still doing that again. I'm just trying to think of the easiest way to do things if I'm having to do it like at a race, God forbid, but shit happens and you have to pull stuff out in the pits, and trying to make it as painless as possible. I mean, it's still a pain in the ass, but anything I can do to make it simpler and easier to work on, the better. So anyway, here we go. So I cut out this transmission adapter, pan adapter thing, if you want to call it that. That'll go on the floor jack to help me install the transmission by myself. Idea I got from Shannon Campbell. So we'll go ahead and get these tabs bent up and then throw some tack welds on this thing. All right, well that worked out really good. I only made one little mistake. I had to cut this corner out right here on these flanges, but it's not going anywhere. It's this corner right here on the pan. This is a Turbo 400, but that's perfect. It's really stable, and it's going to be really helpful to get this thing back in the buggy. So anyway, thank you, Shannon Campbell, for the idea. I seen him use one like this on his race car, and I thought, man, That's smart, because I'm always working by myself. So anything to make it easier working by yourself, the better. Well, that worked out great. Took me a minute to figure out which angle the tubing clamps needed to go into, get that center cross member tube back in. Took me a minute to figure out the angle of the little transmission jack tray thing to figure out how to get the dowel pins lined up. But all in all, it was pretty painless doing it by myself, which is exactly what I wanted. So now got to get the transfer case back in and go back to what we were doing, which was paneling. Looking forward to getting the floor paneling done or started, and go from there. All right, well, this morning we are going to be working on seatbelt mounts. I've already gone ahead and I bought these eyelets for the shoulder harnesses. I bought the clips for the shoulder harnesses. I bought these from TMR Customs, and they're machined to fit 1 3/4 tubing, and I've already got an initial, I TIG welded them. I've already got an initial TIG pass on them. I'm gonna do a secondary pass with some smaller wire and finish welding these up. It's probably not necessary to do 2 passes, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it for insurance anyway. And then I need to work on installing secondary tubing for the lap belts. So I'll have a tube that runs across here, kind of hopefully in line with. So what I was trying to say was have a tube that's in line with this back tube that I put in for the seat support structure. And then there'll be tabs that mount off of that tube. And there'll be tabs that mount off of this tube for the lap belts. And then I've got to install, I'm thinking about using another set of these eyelets and installing them right here on this main frame rail tube for the submarine belt. So that would be the 5th point on the 5-point harnesses. I'm not sure yet. I might put it there. It's not exactly in the center of the seat. So if I don't put it there, that means I have to install another tube that goes across here to get it into the center of the seat. And I'm not sure if I want to do that. What I'm thinking about is covering all this with sheet metal, because I got to cover the whole floor with sheet metal. And these little tabs, they don't stick up that high. So if I do install a tube across there, that means I need to put an 1 3/4 tube there so that it sticks up through the floor at the proper height. So kind of deciding on what I want to do there, but that's what we're going to tackle today. Once I get that done, then I'll start working again on installing floorboards or sheet metal floorboards. Anyway, so lots of little things.